The silk of my dress clung to my skin like a second layer of sweat-soaked shame as I stood in the dimly lit hallway, the muffled echoes of laughter and clinking glasses seeping through the grand oak doors like poison gas. My sister's wedding, my own flesh and blood sacred day. And here I was, relegated to the shadows, a forgotten footnote in the family tapestry. The usher, a pimply-faced kid in an ill-fitting tux, had glanced at his seating chart with feigned sympathy before pointing me toward a folding chair propped against the wall, just outside the ballroom. "Sorry, ma'am," he'd muttered, avoiding my eyes. "Family overflow." Overflow. I was her sister, for God's sake. The one who'd held her hand through every heartbreak, every late-night confession. But no, apparently, I didn't rate a spot at the tables laden with crystal and orchids. I gripped the back of that metal chair, its cold frame biting into my palms, and felt a rage so visceral it blurred my vision, a hot, throbbing pulse in my temples that screamed for release. How dare they? How dare she? I sank into the chair, the hallway's fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like angry hornets, casting harsh shadows on the patterned carpet that smelled faintly of mothballs and old perfume. From my vantage point, I could see slivers of the celebration through the cracked door. My sister, Elena, radiant in her ivory gown, twirling on the dance floor with her new husband, Marcus. My Marcus, once upon a time. The betrayal hit me anew, a knife twisting in my gut. It wasn't just the seating, it was everything. The stolen glances I'd caught between them years ago, the whispered phone calls, the way Elena had comforted me after our breakup, all while slipping into his bed. I'd suspected, but denial had been my shield. Now, here at her wedding, the truth was a spotlight on my humiliation. Guests streamed past me, cousins, aunts, old family friends, offering pitying smiles or awkward nods, their heels clicking like judgments on the marble floor. "Oh, Lila, there you are," one aunt cooed, her voice dripping with false warmth. "We thought you'd be inside." I forced a smile, my lips trembling, but inside a storm brewed. Anger at Elena for her treachery, humiliation at being cast aside like yesterday's trash, heartbreak that our bond had been a lie. My mind raced back to our childhood, those sun-drenched afternoons in our parents' backyard, where Elena and I had built forts from blankets and dreamed of futures intertwined. She was the golden child, beautiful, charismatic, always the center of attention, while I lurked in her shadow, the reliable one, the fixer. When Marcus entered our lives 5 years ago, he'd been mine first. A chance meeting at a coffee shop. His easy laugh drawing me in like a moth to flame. We'd built something real, or so I thought, until Elena's innocent visits turned into something more. I'd confronted her once, tears streaming, begging for the truth. "You're paranoid, Lila," she'd said, her eyes wide with mock innocence. "Marcus and I are just friends." Friends. The word tasted like bile now. And our parents. They'd known, I realized with a sinking dread. Their evasive glances, the way Mom had patted my hand at the rehearsal dinner, saying, "Family sticks together, dear." Sticks together except for me, apparently. I was the outsider, the one who didn't fit the perfect picture. As the speeches began, the microphone's feedback screeching like my unspoken screams, I listened through the door. Dad's voice boomed, praising Elena's grace, her kindness. No mention of me. Not a word. Resentment coiled in my chest, tight as a spring, fueling fantasies that flickered like dark flames. Spilling red wine on her dress, standing up and shouting the truth to the room. She stole him from me. But I stayed seated, fists clenched, nails digging crescents into my palms. Doubt crept in. Was I overreacting? Maybe the seating was a mistake. But no, Elena had planned every detail. This was deliberate, a final twist of the knife to remind me of my place. The obsession took root then, a seed planted in fertile soil of pain. I wouldn't let this slide. Not anymore. The door swung open wider as a waiter rushed past, carrying a tray of champagne flutes that sparkled under the lights. Bubbles fizzed mockingly, and I snatched one, downing it in a gulp that burned my throat. The alcohol warmed my veins, sharpening my resolve. I slipped my phone from my purse, fingers trembling as I scrolled through old messages. Proof if I needed it. Screenshots of Elena's texts to Marcus, intercepted by accident when I'd borrowed her phone. Can't wait to see you tonight. Lila suspects nothing. Heartbreak surged again, fresh as the day I'd found them. But now, mixed with it was a cold resolve, a plan forming in the haze of fury. Revenge. Not petty, not impulsive. Something calculated. Something that would shatter her perfect world as she'd shattered mine. I stood, the chair scraping loudly against the floor, drawing a few curious glances from inside. My heels echoed as I walked away, down the hallway lined with gilded mirrors that reflected my flushed face, my eyes burning with unshed tears. Outside, the night air slapped me, cool and crisp, carrying the distant hum of city traffic. I hailed a cab, sliding into the back seat, the leather creaking under me. "Where to?" the driver asked, his voice gruff through the partition. "Home," I whispered, but my mind was elsewhere, plotting, scheming. Guilt flickered briefly. She was my sister after all. Blood. But betrayal severed bonds sharper than any blade. As the cab pulled away, the wedding venue shrinking in the rearview, I allowed myself a small, bitter smile. They'd notice I was gone soon enough. And what came next? Oh, it would shock them all. Back in my apartment, the door clicking shut behind me like a final punctuation, I paced the living room. The space felt claustrophobic, walls pressing in with memories. Photos of Elena and me on the mantel, her arms slung around my shoulders in happier times. I swept them off with a violent swipe, glass shattering on the hardwood floor, shards glinting like broken promises. My breath came in ragged gasps, anger giving way to a deeper resentment that clawed at my insides. How long had this been building? Years of her taking what was mine, friends, opportunities, now love. Marcus had been the last straw, but the wedding, that was her crowning insult, seating me in the hallway like a servant. I poured myself a glass of whiskey, the amber liquid swirling as I sank onto the couch. The burn down my throat mirrored the fire in my chest. Inner thoughts tumbled like dominoes. Denial first. Maybe it was an oversight, but evidence mounted against it. Fantasies of justice played out in vivid detail. Confronting her at the honeymoon suite, exposing their affair to the guests. But no, too direct, too messy. Doubt nagged. What if I was wrong? What if Marcus had pursued her? But the texts didn't lie. Planning began in earnest then, my mind a whirlwind of strategies. I'd need proof, irrefutable. Emails, photos, perhaps even recordings. Fear whispered, what if it backfired? What if I became the villain? Moral conflict tore at me. Revenge felt justified, but was it right? Yet the humiliation replayed, a loop in my brain. The hallway, the pitying looks, Elena's laughter echoing. The next morning, sunlight pierced the blinds like accusatory fingers, and my phone buzzed incessantly. Missed calls from Mom, Dad, Elena. Voicemails dripping with concern. "Lila, where are you? We were worried." Worried. I scoffed, deleting them without listening fully. A text from Elena. "Sis, what happened? Call me." The hypocrisy fueled my obsession. I dressed quickly in jeans and a hoodie that shrouded my face, and headed to the library downtown, a neutral ground for research. The air there was thick with the scent of aged paper and dust, rows of bookshelves looming like sentinels. I hunkered down at a computer terminal, fingers flying over keys. Searches for exposing affairs, anonymous tips, but subtlety was key. Slow burn, that's how it would be. Hints dropped anonymously. Tensions built gradually. By afternoon, I'd compiled a dossier. Printed emails from Marcus's old account, hacked years ago in a fit of suspicion, password never changed. Photos from social media showing their friendly outings overlapping my dates with him. Guilt gnawed as I stared at the stack. This was crossing lines, invading privacy. But resentment overrode it. They'd invaded my heart first. Back home, I spread the papers on the kitchen table. The wood grain scarred from years of solitary meals. A plan crystallized. I'd start small, a whisper campaign. Anonymous notes to family friends. Subtle posts on local forums. Let the doubt fester like a slow poison. That evening, as rain pattered against the windows, blurring the city lights into smears, I drafted the first email from a burner account. Did you know about Elena and Marcus before Lila? Attached. A blurred photo, just enough to intrigue. Sent to our cousin Sarah, the family gossip. My heart pounded, a mix of thrill and terror. Was this me? The quiet sister, now architect of downfall. Inner conflict raged. Part of me yearned for reconciliation, a hug from Elena saying it was all a mistake. But the hallway loomed in memory, a symbol of exclusion. No turning back. Days blurred into a haze of quiet calculation. I avoided family calls, letting voicemails pile up like unanswered accusations. At work, my desk job in marketing felt mundane, a cover for my nocturnal scheming. Colleagues noticed my distraction. You okay, Lila? But I brushed them off with forced smiles. Nights were for plotting, mapping Elena's social circle, identifying weak links. One evening I met an old friend, Jenna, at a dimly lit bar, neon signs buzzing overhead, the air thick with smoke and regret. What's going on? She asked, sipping her martini, eyes probing. I hesitated, then spilled fragments. The wedding, the betrayal. Her gasp was genuine. That's awful. What are you going to do? I leaned in, voice low. Make them pay. Her eyes widened, but she nodded, a silent accomplice born. Suspense built in subtle waves. A rumor here, a questioning glance at a family gathering I skipped. Elena called again, voice cracking. Lila, please. Talk to me. I hung up, heart twisting with guilt, but resolve hardening. The pursuit had begun, a shadow lengthening over their happiness. And as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan whirring like my thoughts, I knew the retaliation was coming. Undeniable, shattering. The anonymous emails multiplied like shadows in the dusk, each one a carefully placed domino in my grand design. 2 weeks post-wedding, and the cracks were showing. I monitored from afar, scrolling through family group chats I'd muted, catching snippets. Heard something weird about Elena and Marcus. Must be nonsense. But doubt was a virus, spreading unchecked. My apartment had become command central, walls papered with notes, timelines of their affair sketched in red ink that bled like wounds. The air hung heavy with the scent of takeout containers and stale coffee, my reflection in the mirror gaunt, eyes hollowed by sleepless nights fueled by obsession. Anger had evolved into a cold resolve, a steel rod in my spine, but guilt lurked in the corners. Whispers of "she's your sister," clashing with memories of betrayal. Moral conflict gnawed. Was I becoming the monster I despised? Yet every time I wavered, the hallway flashed, metal chair, echoing laughter, and resolve snapped back. Elena showed up at my door one rainy afternoon, her designer coat dripping puddles on the welcome mat. I peered through the peephole, heart slamming before opening a crack. What do you want? My voice was ice, laced with suppressed rage. She looked wrecked, mascara smudged, hair frizzed, nothing like the polished bride. Lila, please. Me in. We need to talk. I stepped aside, the door creaking like an accusation. She entered, glancing at the chaos. Papers strewn, laptop open to incriminating tabs. Her eyes widened. What's all this? I crossed my arms, leaning against the counter, the granite cool under my palms. Truth, Elena. Something you've avoided. She sank onto the couch, hands twisting in her lap. About the wedding. Sorry. It was a mix-up. Liar. Her voice trembled, revealing cracks in her facade. Dialogue hung heavy, natural yet charged. Mix-up? You seated me in the goddamn hallway. Fury bubbled, authentic and raw. She flinched. Mom handled seating. I was overwhelmed. But her eyes darted, betraying the lie. I pressed. And Marcus? Was that a mix-up too? Silence stretched, thick as fog, heightening tension. Finally a whisper. It just happened. We didn't mean to hurt you. Hurt. The word ignited heartbreak anew. A storm of resentment and obsession. I paced, floorboards groaning underfoot, sensory details amplifying the scene. rain lashing windows, thunder rumbling like my pulse. Inner thoughts raced. Fantasies of slapping her, doubt questioning my path, fear of irreversible damage. But planning overrode. This confrontation was bait, drawing her deeper into my web. "You stole him," I said, voice steady despite the turmoil. "And now everyone will know." Her face paled. "What have you done?" I smiled coldly. "Just planted seeds. Watch them grow." She left in tears, the door slamming, leaving me alone with my schemes. Guilt surged. Had I gone too far? But no. Justice demanded balance. The slow burn intensified. I escalated subtly. A leaked audio clip to Dad, my voice tearful recounting discoveries, spliced with Elena's old voicemails admitting flirtations. Anonymous, of course. Family dinners turned tense, whispers circulating. Mom called, voice quavering. "Lila, these rumors, are they true?" Feigned ignorance. "What rumors?" But inside, satisfaction bloomed, layered with moral grayness. Was this poetic or petty? Characters deepened. Elena, not just betrayer but victim of her own insecurities, always needing to outshine. Marcus, charming but weak, motivated by thrill. Parents, enablers blinded by favoritism. Me, justified avenger, or obsessed destroyer. The narrative pushed forward, each day a step toward climax. One night, under a moonless sky, I drove to their new home, a sprawling suburban house funded by family money, lights glowing warmly through curtains. Parked across the street, engine idling softly, I watched shadows move inside. Heartbreak mingled with cold calculation. This was where they built their life on my ruins. I sent the next bomb, an envelope to Marcus containing photos and a note. "She'll betray you too." Foreshadowing hidden motives. Elena's history of flings, unearthed from old friends. Tension rose, quiet moments of doubt piercing the resolve. Lying in bed, staring at childhood photos, tears for lost sisterhood. But resentment won. The payoff built dramatically. Elena confronted me again, this time at a coffee shop, neutral ground smelling of espresso and anxiety. Tables buzzed with chatter, but our corner was a pressure cooker. "Stop this," she hissed, leaning forward, eyes blazing. "You're ruining everything." Believable rage, revealing suppressed truths. "I was jealous, okay? You always had the stable life. I wanted something real." Manipulation twisted. "But you took it from me." Her admission cracked her. Guilt flashing, motivations complex. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. But my resolve was iron. Too late. The twist unraveled at the family intervention, staged in our parents' living room, air thick with tension and the scent of potpourri masking underlying rot. Everyone gathered. Parents, aunts, Marcus pale beside Elena. "We know about the leaks," Dad boomed, eyes on me. "This stops now." But I'd prepared the finale. A USB drive, handed over silently. "Watch it." Projections on the TV. Not just affair evidence, but financial secrets. Elena embezzling from family business, Marcus complicit. Gasps echoed, shock rippling. "How?" Elena whispered, betrayal mirrored back. "I'd hired a PI weeks ago. Quiet investigation revealing deeper rot. Her obsession with status funded by theft. Poetic justice. She'd betrayed not just me but all." Chaos erupted, shouts, tears, Marcus storming out, Elena crumbling. Psychological impact hit. Guilt for my role but satisfaction in exposure. Unexpected consequence. Parents turned on her but offered me reconciliation. "We're sorry, Lila." I walked away, rain soaking me outside, a cleansing. Revenge complete but hollow, obsession's price. The hallway faded, replaced by cold resolve's echo. What happened next? Shocked everyone, including me.